the plate. Hear that crowd roar, the Angels minor league reports keeping score. 66ers swinging down in Inland Empire. Dust Devils heating up, they're reaching higher. Rocket City Trash Pandas, they're coming through. Salt Lake Bees buzzing, making their move. Dominic Lorenz breaking down the plays. Halos in the infield each and every day. Prospects climbing, chasing that dream. From the minors to the majors, part of the team. Fastballs flying, big hits we seek. Catch it all on the Angels minor league report each week. Oh, each week. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome on in to another episode of the Angels Minor League Report here on the Halos in the Infield Baseball Network with yours truly, Dominic Lorenz of Catella Chronicles. So glad to have you along back for another episode. Time to deep dive into those Angels farm system teams. If the Salt Lake Bees, Rocket City Trash Pandas, Tri-City Dust Devils, or the Inland Empire 66ers. So much good stuff to get to you as the minor league season is hit the halfway mark here in 2025. Crazy to believe that we're already near the end of June, approaching July. So many great opportunities have come and went, but still another half a season to go. And for all, I should say, of minor league baseball, now that the page has turned to the second half of the season, a lot of the records go back to 0-0. Because the playoff system in minor league baseball, for those that maybe are not as familiar with it as others are, first half of the season, typically within the 66 to 70 game mark, whoever is the best record in that said division throughout the first half gets an automatic bid into the postseason. Clinched, no matter what happens, they are in the postseason. Then the records go back to 0-0. Whoever has the best record in the second half will meet the first half champion in the first half of the postseason. If it happens to be the same team that wins the first half as the second half will go to a wild card winner, which is the next best overall record after the first and second half champions. So you never know what can happen. The endless possibilities are open now for the Angels farm system. And let's dive on into what we have this week. And always don't forget, here at the Halos in the Infield Network, 714 Tickets, Bruheim, the OC Dugout, and Max Market Pros, everybody sponsoring us here at the network. And don't forget to not only check out this show, but all of our other shows, including Mr. Todd Fox's post-game shows, YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok. All of your bases will be covered here on the one and only Halos in the Infield Network. Let's get going. We're going to do a little bit of opposite here on the show this week. We're going to start at the lowest level possible for the Angels farm system right here in Southern California, San Bernardino, and it's the Inland Empire 66ers. Now, we've talked about all season long, Inland Empire has had a real struggle to the first half of the season. Couldn't quite get to the 20-win plateau. However, they're coming off a very good week by their standards by splitting a 6-game series with the Athletics affiliate in the Stockton Ports. Took 3 games in that series, which I think was huge for them to kind of flip the calendar after losing 5 of 6 to the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes the previous week. Then last week, taking on Stockton on the road, they picked up a 5-1, 9-8, and 14-6 win. So in an offensive league, like we've talked about before in the California League, offense showed out. Even in the 3 losses for Inland Empire, they combined for a grand total of 33 runs scored in 6 games. So very good numbers from Inland Empire's offensive side. And even their pitching had some prime performances as well. But looking at the offensive side of things, their infielder utility, Yohan Macias, he had 9 hits in 22 at-bats, good for a 4.09 average, one of his best weeks of the season, with a home run and 7 RBIs. Also a good week, somebody we've talked about in the past as a premier catcher, Dario Laverde, when I saw them a couple weeks ago against Rancho Cucamonga, It was an extremely tough day defensively for Laverde, but in 4 games last week at Stockton, picked up 4 RBIs, 2 walks, and batted .353. So getting on base at a .421 mark was huge in the Stockton series. And we can't forget, there's so many times where as we get deeper and deeper through the season, I'm probably going to start being repetitive with a lot of names that we talk about throughout the weeks. And that's perfectly okay because it's minor league baseball. It's developmental. You're going to see more highs than lows for some of these players. And for other players, you're going to see more lows than highs. And that's just the nature of the business throughout. And a guy we talked about ad nauseum, I would say through April and the first half of May, Rowdy Rodriguez, who we gave the player of the month for April for the Inland Empire 66ers, struggling a little bit over the last couple of weeks, just a .261 average with 2 doubles and 2 RBIs in the series against Stockton. And we talk about streaky hitting. Let's kind of use Rowdy Rodriguez as an example. Overall this year, a .249 average, 3 home runs, 46 RBIs, 17 stolen bases with a .328 on base percentage and a .731 OPS. Flat numbers right there. I really like where he is taking his game to it at the age of just 21 years old from the Dominican Republic, went to high school in Georgia. So he's been in the United States for a while, has been accustomed to how baseball is played. Again, when you go from different countries, if it's, Dominican, Cuba, Puerto Rico, anywhere else where the prime baseball targets are, it is a different stature of playing wherever you go. And even here, as a broadcaster at the high school level, California baseball is different than Texas baseball. Texas is different from the Carolinas, Florida, New York, all across the globe. So to be able to transition from the Dominican to American in a very young age and now, having a thriving ability in Inland Empire, I think that's a great start for Rowdy Rodriguez. And in speaking of those splits, April 329, May struggled heavily at 198. June so far started off right in the middle at 235. So after getting up to such a torrid pace where he had 7 triples in his first 21 games, he's lighting the load with only 3 in his last 19. So a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde season from Rodriguez. I definitely believe he will be a 66er that stays there for the entirety of 2025. And I wouldn't be shocked if I saw him back there for a little taste next season, depending on how the rest of the 2025 season acts for him and the way he plays through the really high marks of April. And now how does he come out of this slump from May and now throughout the majority of June here batting .235? I would say some players, if it's pitching or hitting, and we'll get to the pitchers here in a moment with some good performances this week, when you get to that latter stages of the first half, when you flip the calendar to June, you're about 3 weeks away, the playoff picture is very much intact. And with the California League South Division, Rancho Cucamonga, the Dodgers affiliate, had a double-digit lead in first place for a long period of time. It was only until they had a 8-game losing streak and Visalia, the Diamondbacks affiliate, had an 8-game winning streak that lead went from 11 to only 3, and it got a little tight. But even throughout that, Inland Empire was primarily out of this race and double digits severely down. They were as low as 21 games back at a certain point. So early on, probably around mid-May, late May, probably mid-May, that it wasn't going to happen in the first half. And we've seen things from Inland Empire in the past where they've had bad first half, resurged in the second half, and 2 years ago, they made the postseason. Even though they got a first-round exit when the Quakes knocked them out, you still have that fresh breath of life. Second half, brand new start, and it kind of lights a fire under some of these players, even those that were struggling and even those that were performing relatively well. And on the pitching side of things, we've seen that with an Angels right-hander, top 30 prospect in Chris Clark. He had 1 game, 6 innings, 2 runs, 1 of them earned on 7 hits and 5 strikeouts. Great performance for Clark this past week against the Stockton Ports. He's definitely somebody we've talked about on the show in the past. He has made quality starts this year, 14 outings this year, 71 and 2/3 innings. The record, not pleasing at 1-6. The ERA, not pleasing at 5.15. However, I feel he's turning a corner in the right direction because in the month of June, 4 starts, a 3.13 ERA. If you take out a very dismal month of May where his ERA was above 9, April 2.74, and of course June 3.13. So what I would say, if he can continue trending in the right direction and leave May in the rearview mirror, I think Chris Clark can be definitely a front end of the rotation starter for the 66ers in this now playoff push that the records have gone back to 0-0 and entering play today as we record on Tuesday, June 24th at a 2-1 mark, tied for first with Rancho Cucamonga. There was some newcomers into the bullpen. Nixon Encarnacion had one game out of the bullpen for the Inland Empire 66ers, had been a little bit of a split guy so far, primarily out of the bullpen, has 2 starts to his credit, a 5.25 ERA so far this year. But if you look at his splits, and you know me, if you listen to the show, watch the show, met me in person, look at me on social media for Catella Chronicles, you know I'm big on the splits. I love how they do home versus road or righties versus lefties. It really gives an accurate depiction of where these players are trending towards, and this is where that analytic mindset comes from most of the time. April and May, split-wise for Encarnacion, all out of the bullpen. 10 appearances. He had a 16.2 ERA in April, and then it lowered to 3.5 in May. So far in June, 4 appearances, 2 in a starter's capacity, and it's a 3.46 ERA. So the opportunities are coming right now, and the 2 starts were earlier in June, the 5th and the 12th, where it was a little bit just of a minor start, 2 2/3 and 3 2/3. So could it be something where they're extending him out? Possibly so. His last 2 appearances, even though they've been out of the bullpen, 6 2/3 combined innings of just 2-run, 8-hit baseball. So maybe something to look out for if you're a 66ers fan and an Angels, of course, farm system fan, is Nixon Encarnacion, the 20-year-old from Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, a guy to look at as once we start getting into transactions, promotions, demotions, and things kind of start changing, especially once the MLB draft happens, I really think you're in the situation where you could see some new guys enter the fold in the starting rotation as some new draftees come in, or players get released, players get adjusted. So maybe this is a waiting and testing period for Nixon Encarnacion. But Inland Empire this week, after splitting the series with the Stockton Ports, they are at home to take on the Visalia Rawhide, the Diamondbacks affiliate, for a 6-game series. We'll see how that goes. Again, records have changed. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of this past week count for the second half. Inland Empire won 2 of 3 in those games against Stockton. So they start this week at a 2-1 mark, tied for first with the Inland Empire tied with the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes. So good things to look out for right there if you're in San Bernardino. Now to make the trek to the Pacific Northwest, and that is the Tri-City Dust Devils. And you know me on the show, we go Salt Lake to Alabama, back up to Washington to California. Got to put it in reverse. Got to send some good juju right now. And boy, the great juju is flying right now in Tri-Cities. They are thriving, coming off of a series sweep against the Hillsboro Hops. They've won 7 games in a row. And boy, oh boy, let's talk about it right off the bat. We've talked about it before with Fernando a couple weeks ago in our Players of the Month. Ryan Johnson was in the Angels bullpen early this year, got dropped down to high A to be extended into a starter. And boy, he got Pitcher of the Week honors in the Northwest League. 7 innings of shutout, 2-hit baseball for the Tri-City Dust Devils with 10 strikeouts. He is looking like an impeccable starter right now at this level. I would not be shocked to give him 1, maybe 2 more outings. We have this week of June, next week. I would say 3 more starts when we get to the All-Star break for Major League Baseball. Minor League Baseball also has 4 days off between July 14th and 17th. I would say in that time span, I would expect Ryan Johnson to get promoted to Rocket City. Even though Rocket City's not having a great season overall, I think his pitching ability has allowed him to get to the next level, face some more tougher opponents and opposing batters, and give the opportunity. But I love, love, love what I'm seeing from Ryan Johnson on the bump for the Tri-City Dust Devils. I think if we can take the template of what the Angels did to Jose Soriano last year and implement it this year to Ryan Johnson, I have absolutely zero qualms about him being demoted down. I know they don't like to say demoted, but moved down to Tri-City to figure out what you have, especially from a guy who has not pitched in minor league baseball. Love the move. Congratulations to the Pitcher of the Week honors for Ryan Johnson. He and the rest of the pitching staff got a lot of help offensively. Matt Kootenay at first base, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, batted .357 this week. David Calabrese, who was sent down from Rocket City, he batted .250 with a home run and 4 RBIs. Ryan Nicholson, who we've talked about in the past, batted .333 with a home run and 4 RBIs. The power numbers were off the chain this week. Kootenay with 3, Calabrese with 1, Nicholson with 1, Capri Ortiz with 1, Pendleton and Aurel Vera all chipped in with a home run as well last week in their series against the Hillsboro Hops, which is the Arizona Diamondbacks affiliate. But really good offensive performances, and kind of looking up and down who needed this one. I'm going to say, even though it was in limited capacity, it was the Angels draft pick from just a year or two ago, and it was in 2023, 16th round pick, Rio Foster. We saw him a lot with the Inland Empire 66ers when he came up, especially in 2024. But this year in 2025 with the Tri-City Dust Devils, only batting .196 with a home run and 11 RBIs. And I think coming into that series as under the Mendoza line as he was, and coming out of 2 games batting .333, I think you got to take the small wins with high-level prospects like that. He hit the skin off the ball in Inland Empire, had great power numbers, not seeing it right now this season. But I think Rio Foster, if you can get some opportunities to put some back-to-back games, or even if you're not playing all 6 games in a series, you only play 3 as a utility outfielder. If you can make the most of those opportunities and have 2 to 3 hit performances in those games, those multi-hit affairs, I think Rio Foster is going to be in a very, very good place as we get to the latter stages of the 2025 campaign. Because why not? You're in a situation where Tri-City not winning the first half, right now 3-0, undefeated in the second half currently right now in the Northwest League. I think it's something that get a little winning streak going. Get the guys feeling good, even those that only play 2 or 3 days a week. If you can get the back end of your bench thriving when their number is called, that tells you how more well-rounded your team is in comparison to the opposition. On the bump, we've talked, again, and I know this is going to sound like a broken record because we're at the halfway point of the year. We've talked about him before. We're going to talk about him again because I think there is really, really something special. And I know Todd and I have talked about this on the postgame show in the past. Chris Cortez. Chris Cortez is a young right-hander who last week against Hillsboro, 5 innings, 1 run, 2 hit baseball. Great numbers in limited opportunities. When you have those limited opportunities, you better be able to get the job done. And overall this year, tied for the team lead on the pitching staff with 14 games started, has a record of 2-2 with a 3.28 ERA, and through 68 2/3 innings, the most on the Tri-City Dust Devils. He ranks second in strikeouts with 60, a whip of 1.41. The walks are a little high at 48, which is the most out of all starters on the Tri-City Dust Devils roster. However, I think the ability for a 22-year-old second-round pick out of Texas A&M to be able to throw the ball at this level, I think he may have an opportunity to get a promotion to AA Rocket City. College arm, which is, I think in the coming weeks, we're going to talk about on the show with the MLB draft on Sunday, July 13th. Do the Angels go Cade Anderson of LSU or Seth Hernandez of Corona High School if they're looking at the 2 best pitchers in this draft? It's a situation where I know everybody loves college arms. They're more seasoned. They're prepared. But do you go with the younger arm and play the long game? I know the Angels' development process is not highly touted in Major League Baseball, to say it nicely. But for a comp like this in Chris Cortez, who maybe, who knows, depending on how the Angels play, are they going to be buyers at the deadline and need to give up something to get something? Is Chris Cortez a guy that can pique the interest of opposing trade bait teams like the Marlins or the Pirates or the Twins? Somebody along those lines that could see developing a Cortez and moving him into the future. I think the stats speak for himself, and I think he could be a nice little arm moving down into the rotation come 2028. I think there's still a lot of work to be done for the college arm, but a 3.28, a 3.28 ERA in 14 appearances so far this year with 60 strikeouts and a whip of 1.41 is very, very good numbers if you're looking at a developmental process for an Angels starter, reliever, however you want to look for it in this farm system. I think when you're ranked 30th, you got to take the small wins. And the small wins right now are definitely having good quality start appearances with low earned run totals, low hit totals, and the strikeouts come on a rise. So they sweep Hillsborough, have won they take the 6, going for their 7th tonight, trailing Vancouver 3-1. So this week at Vancouver all week long, and looking to keep the momentum currently in first place in the second half standings with a 3-0 record. So Tri-City looking to be kicking off on the right foot, just like we are here on another episode number 13 of the Angels Minor League Report with yours truly, Dominic Lorenz. So thankful that you guys are following the program here on the Halos in the Infield Network. If you're either watching us on YouTube or listening to us on all of our streaming platforms, I thank you so much for listening to this program and to all of our programs. If it's with Vince and Fernando, James's Around the League show, Todd's postgame show, Rob filling in throughout the days as well, and of course, producer to the stars, Randy Yaz as well, and graphic extraordinaire. We appreciate it for the fans, by the fans, and you know what time it is here on the show. We are going to take a step back for just a moment, and we want to thank our sponsors, because without them, we would not be anything. We would just be another podcast that just does basic stuff. And we know you don't want basic stuff. We know you want the good, the grit, and everything else in between when it comes to Halos in the Infield. So, as I look for the take right now, and right now I'm losing my marbles here because I'm looking for other things, and I can't seem to find it at the moment. So right now, instead of putting out the advertisement scheme, I'm going to tell you about them. 714 Tickets, our number one sponsor. Boy, oh boy, we love them. Bought tickets to the game last week against the Astros 2 hours before the game. Sat right above the visiting dugout on the first base side. $36 a piece. Where else can you get a deal? You put the code HITI in the promo code box. You get 10% off on your purchase. You get rewards points. You get a lot of great things. Baseball, hockey, basketball, football, concerts, everything you need at 714 Tickets. You take those tickets, you go to a game, but before or after the game, you go to Brewheim, just down the street from Angel Stadium. Quality beers, quality seltzers, all that great stuff. You mention Heedy, you get some dollars off on some, again, quality tasting brews. Boy, oh boy, go to Brewheim. It is an absolute fantastic time. The OC Dugout, get your autographing needs. Logan O'Hoppe this past weekend. Nolan Shawnoel coming up. Go out, support the OC Dugout. Love them being a part of us. And brand new to the program, Max Market Pros, marketing the heck out of us. And boy, we do enjoy it. So check all those guys out. 714 Tickets, Brewheim, OC Dugout, and Max Market Pros for all of your needs for each. Right here at the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, right at the bottom, our wonderful foursome of sponsors here in 2025. Now let's jump back into the show and keep going up the ladder of the Angels farm system with the Rocket City Trash Pandas. Again, just like Inland Empire, an incredibly rough first half of the season faltering to the worst record in the Southern League, but a brand new day. Second half begins as of tonight. Even though they're losing and they're going to kick off the 6-game series against the Montgomery Biscuits, the Tampa Bay Rays affiliates, Rocket City got a lot of promotions, adjustments, transaction reports last week. And we weren't on the show last week, but I'm going to give you some of them right here. All apart, and I'll show you here on the phone. And if you're listening, a lot of transactions, more than 15 transactions through the Angels farm system last week. You had guys like David Calabrese, who we talked about, went from Rocket City back to Tri-City. You had Mitch Daly go to Inland Empire from Rocket City. You had Ben Goebel go to Rocket City from Tri-City. Our friend Bridger Holmes, Jared Southard, Corey Holiday, Sam Ryan, AJ Block, all being adjusted throughout this Angels minor league system. So new faces, new opportunities, and trying to breathe some new life into some of these Angel farm system teams that were struggling in the first half of the season. And overall for the Rocket City Trash Pandas last week, not a great week. Ending the first half on a sour note, and it was with a 6-game swept away, a tough week versus at home against the Chattanooga Lookouts. And that losing streak, unfortunately, sits at 9. And as I look at the stats on my phone right now, it has just extended to 10. The Rocket City Trash Pandas falling to the Montgomery Biscuits tonight in Game 1 of their 6-game series by the score of 13-5. So Rocket City exceptionally scuffling right now. We're going to try to pick and parse some top performances because even though the team is losing, developmental baseball is still the end-all be-all here in the Angels farm system. And over the last week, I've seen some really good opportunities and really good at-bats. Of course, who else? Nelson Rada. And of course, before I get into Nelson Rada stats, I'm going to give a shameless plug, even though they're not a sponsor. You, the fans, can watch MILB baseball. All you have to do is download the Bally Live app. You know, the former dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, that's ESPN. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, that's Bally Live or Bally Sports, now FanDuel Sports Network. However, as I digress and joke a little bit, the Bally Live app. Type that into the Google Play or iTunes store, download it, create a username and a password, and you get to watch every single minor league team all season long for free. It's absolutely amazing. This is where you can watch the next level pros for the Angels, do the developmental, and do the hard grit work to get to where they need to be in the future. But for the at-bats I see from Nelson Rada, he's coming, boys and girls. He is coming to the pros quickly. This last week, 6 hits and 18 at-bats, a .333 average. He had a stolen base, getting on base at a .429 mark with 3 runs scored. Getting on base, that's all I care about right now from Nelson Rada. Denzar Guzman, utility infielder, he batted .200 this week. A little bit of a softer week for Guzman. Had a double, 4 hits and 20 at-bats with the walk as well. So right now, those are the 2 top hitters in a rough week for the Rocket City Trash Pandas, who lose all 6 games against the Chattanooga Lookouts, the Cincinnati Reds affiliate. And with the loss tonight to kick off the week against the Montgomery Biscuits on the road, suffering losses in 10 straight games for the Trash Pandas. However, there is some nice bullpen work I like to get to, and one is a very familiar name. Southpaw Jose Quijada. 3 games out of the pen, 2 2/3 innings, 1 run, 1 hit, 6 strikeouts, and a beautiful whip of 0.38. Those are the numbers we like to see. I know a lot of people have been asking, when's Jose Quijada coming back into this bullpen? I don't think there's any need for him in this moment right now, especially with Robert Stevenson on the mend. You have Sam Bachman coming up, pitching well. Kenley Jansen, even though they had the pectoral tight cramping muscle last night, he's going to be fine. And you have Reed Detmers performing at an all-star rate. Brogdon, Zephyr John. I don't think this bullpen needs any fine-tuning or adjustments right now. So keep letting Jose Quijada cook at the AA level and getting stronger with that pitching repertoire. Also on the airing of the side of good pitching in this series, looking up and down the order here for the Rocket City Trash Pandas. We're going to give our love and devotion to a former Tri-City Dust Devil, got promoted, A.J. Block, out of the bullpen, 4 1/3 innings, 1 run, 4 hits in 2 appearances, and 5 total strikeouts, an ERA of 2.08 in his first week at the AA level. So tip of the cap to A.J. Block. He is continuing a fantastic season. We'll see if he'll be in the running once again for June Player of the Month, if it's for Tri-City or Rocket City. Could be Rocket City, depending on how he pitches the rest of this week and next week. But overall, good bullpen performances for the Rocket City Trash Pandas this past week. Again, 10-game losing streak, looking to start off the second half on a better note as they are on the road against the Montgomery Biscuits. And boy, oh boy, hopefully winning ways for our friends with the Rocket City Trash Pandas. Final team, moving on up to as high as you can go, the Salt Lake Bees. The Bees, how do we put them? Dead last in the Pacific Coast League West Division. Not winning the first half. The Las Vegas Aviators, the athletics team, they won that coveted title, so they are postseason bound. However, we saw guys this past week like Kyron Paris get called back up, even though it was for Kevin Newman, who's on paternity list. We'll see if Kyron Paris gets the opportunity to play. Power numbers, big time in the Pacific Coast League last week as the Bees split a 3-game series against the Sacramento River Cats. Nico Cavadas, 3 home runs. Ben Gamble, who got signed, sent to AAA, he had 2 home runs this past week. J.D. Davis with a home run. Zach Humphreys a home run. Carter Keyboom a homer. Matthew Lugo a home run. And Yolmer Sanchez with a home run as well. So the power numbers up in high supply in Sacramento. And so far this year, looking at how the Angels farm system ranks 30th and how AAA nowadays in Major League Baseball, and Mark Gubicza and Wayne Randazzo were talking about it tonight in the Angels-Red Sox game early on, AAA is not what it once was. It is more of a holding pattern for those AAA and what we like to call those 4A players that are really, really good at AAA, but are mediocre to subpar at the big league level. So what do you make of AAA nowadays, especially the Pacific Coast League? Is it just glorified batting practice? Is it glorified pitching tutorials? Depending on what night is it? Is your pitchers on? Is it an offensive game? You get some wacky scores like 21-20 or 1-0. It's kind of a little bit of a mixed bag of everything at these ballparks at the AAA level. For me, I just think you really have to narrow it down to the bare bone basics of refining skills. If you're at AAA, you're not developing anymore. And by developing, I mean you're not between the ages of 18 and 22, where if you're a pitcher, you have a 3-pitch arsenal, fastball, slider, changeup, and you want to add the sweeper or the splitter or whatever. You're not developing that part of your game. As a hitter, you know at this point, are you a power hitter? Are you a pull hitter? Are you a slap hitter? Are you a doubles machine? You kind of know what you are. And you have to now accentuate it and do it well enough that a major league team, your team, says, okay, we want to bring them up because they can give us a little something different at the big league level that we may be missing. And that's kind of where I think the Angels are with a lot of these prospects, like Nico Cavadas. He is a top 30 prospect. He is batting 3 home runs last week, 6 RBIs overall this season at AAA, batting with 14 home runs and 45 RBIs. However, just a 237 batting average and a 388 on base percentage. The OPS is 846 because he has power numbers. But is there really a need for him right now with the Angels? Nolan Shonowell is all-star capable over at first base. Could you use Cavadas as a DH? Sure, with Soler out. But the Angels wanted Gustavo Campero as a slap hitter and a better outfielder in that point to kind of cover that base while Soler is out. Also on the side of things, we've seen a little bit of J.D. Davis. We've seen Matthew Lugo a little bit. That still needs a little more of refinement at this point. We've seen him hit. His defense was a little shaky for the Angels, but there were glimpses that Lugo helped this ball club, especially when the Angels were on that road trip at Dodger Stadium and even before that. So there are opportunities for this offense of the Bees, but it is in a way a little Jekyll and Hyde. Are these real MLB caliber talented players, or are they just living their days at the AAA level as those glorified 4A fringe players that they could be moving forward? On the pitching side of things, for the Angels AAA affiliate in the Salt Lake Bees, I love these lines. We've talked about them before. When you get 7 innings out of your guys, chef's kiss, quality starts. And we got not 1, not 2, but we got 3 of them this week. One being Brett Kerry, a 1.23 ERA this past week, 1 run, 4 hits, 7 1/3 innings against the Sacramento River Cats with 5 strikeouts. The second, Jake Etter, who we've talked about in the past, in 1 start. Yes, 4 runs and 8 hits, but he gave you quality innings of 7 to keep you in the ball game with 6 strikeouts. And then Victor Medeiros goes no runs, a 2-hit shutout in 7 innings with 4 strikeouts. So 3 front end of the rotation guys right there in AAA. Caden Dana did not pitch last week. There was rumors that he may have been promoted to the Angels. However, I don't know if it was a maintenance week. There was no injury to be announced for Caden Dana, the Angels' number 2 prospect under Christian Moore, who's now at the big league level. But I'm going to focus in on out of the 3. I haven't really talked about Brett Kerry this year for the Halos. 2-5 record, and the reason being a 9.35 ERA, 12 games, 11 in a starter's capacity, 43 1/3 innings pitched. Why haven't we talked about him enough this season? Well, started the year at AAA, was placed on the 7-day IL on April the 30th, was out all May in the Arizona Complex League rehabbing, and then June 3rd got reinstated from the 7-day IL. So, Jekyll and Hyde season, let's split the stats in this 9.35 ERA. 8 games, 7 appearances in his time with Salt Lake this year, 2-4 record, a 10.19 ERA. And you can definitely see Jekyll and Hyde in comparison where he was this past week in comparison to where he was in April. Let's see where he was in April. His first outing of the year, 5 innings, no run, 1 hit. Great. But then he gives up 6 against Albuquerque, 11 in just 2 2/3 innings against Reno, and then 5 against Sacramento. And then he went on the shelf with an injury. So really, 3 bloviated games have sent him over the edge. He returns to Salt Lake. How does he look after the injury? First game against the Round Rock Express, he gives up in 3 innings, 4 runs. Okay. Las Vegas, 5 in 6 innings, 8 in 2 2/3 innings against Sacramento, and finally has a bright spot game where he gives up 1 in 7 innings. So I think it's going to be kind of one of those years for Kerry, who has been in the Angels system for a little while, and looking at his career numbers, he's been with the Angels since 2021. 5th round pick out of South Carolina. And in 2023, where he really first started to divulge himself into this Angels farm system in a way, 2021 was with Inland Empire. All of 2022 with Rocket City. Spent a majority of time in 2023 with Rocket City with a 3.88 ERA. But then just had 4 appearances in AAA with a 9.72 ERA. Last year, found something worth finding for once again, a 2.73 ERA in AA and a little bit lesser 5.95 ERA. So again, there are really good glimpses of Brett Kerry so far, but he just hasn't found the consistency mark is where, again, to me, consistency and refinement are one and the same. And for Salt Lake, and more especially Brett Kerry, that's exactly what they need right now. And if he can turn this 1-run, 7-inning performance into 3 more quality starts in a row, I think maybe by the All-Star break, you can see the opportunities rise a little bit for Kerry and his performance going up the system. Kerry was once a top 30 prospect in this Angels farm system, and I know the injuries probably don't help in any sense of the word, but still, when you look at the Angels' top 30 prospects, and you have Christian Moore, Caden Dana, George Clausen, Sam Aldegeri, Nelson Rada, some of your top 5, and now Ryan Johnson and Chris Cortez filling out the 7 and 8 spot. You have an opportunity as I go all the way down. Kerry is not in the top 30 prospects anymore. So, with Christian Moore probably going to graduate at some point, I don't foresee him going back to AAA. I like what he's given to the Angels so far at the big league level. I think it's just be consistent. Find the refinements. Figure out where the arm slot, recovery from your injury. I've seen him when he was with the Inland Empire 66ers, and I thought he really did have some nasty stuff that could play at the higher levels. But right now, going from Inland Empire to AA, skipping Tri-City altogether, they're allowing him to figure things out at the AAA level. And if you're finding things out at the AAA level, you're going to get shelled from time to time because you're going to be facing the next level of MLB talent or those 4A players that crush AAA pitching, but maybe not so at the MLB level. So to me, grind your teeth, figure it out at the AAA level. I want to see some refinement and consistency from pitchers like Kerry. And if he can get the job done, then boy, let's go for it. Let's give the man some hope. So let's see what Brett Kerry can do. This week, the Salt Lake Bees are on the road taking on the Diamondbacks affiliate, the Reno Aces. And as I look down at my phone right now to see how game 1 is going, I laugh a little bit because I just talked about how the Pacific Coast League pitcher or batters hit good pitching or bad pitching, and it can get ugly quick in the sense of the scoreboard. Top of the 7th in Reno, the Aces 17 and the Bees 11. It is a high offensive game, and let's just kind of peek into the box score right now to see who's doing well and who's scoring. Right now, Reno has scored in 5 of 6 innings. The Bees have scored in 3 of 6 innings, 28 combined runs to 26 combined hits. Chad Stevenson for the Angels farm system, who's had an absolute rock star season. I'm going to talk about him right now. 318 average, 12 home runs, 38 RBIs. A lot of Angel fans were clamoring for him to be called up to get some at-bats this season. Opportunity could come. So far tonight for Stevenson, 3 for 3 with an RBI and 2 runs scored. But then at the bottom, our good old friend Chad Wallach, the utility catcher, 2 for 2, 8 RBIs. How does he have 8 RBIs, you ask? Well, he has not 1, 2 grand slams in the game. If that does not get you Pacific Coast League Batter of the Week, I don't know what will. But Chad Wallach, 2 for 3 with 8 RBIs. He is responsible for 8 of the 11 runs so far for the Salt Lake Bees in game 1 of their 6-game series against the Reno Aces here at the start of the second half of the 2025 season. But just like that, fans, that will do it for this week's Angels Minor League Report with yours truly, Dominic Lorenz of Catella Chronicles here on the Halos in the Infield Network, 714 Tickets, Bruheim, the OC Dugout, and Max Market Pros, serving you for the fans, by the fans, as we dig on down to the farm to see what's going on with our Angels affiliates, if it's the 66ers, Dust Devils, Trash Pandas, or the Bees. Programming note for you guys, next week. Yes, next week. Even though the calendar will not have flipped to July quite yet, it will be the Players of the Month of June episode. We'll kind of look back at the past month, see who's done an exceptional job either at the dish or on the mound, and we will give you the 5 Players of the Month, 1 for every team, and then the wild card winner next week here on the show. It'll be the month of June's Angels Minor League Players of the Month, because the following week, it'll be an episode strictly dedicated to the 2025 MLB Draft. The Angels have the number 2 pick. They're looking at pitching. They could get a batter. Is it going to be Holiday, Anderson, Hernandez, Doyle, Arnold? Who's it going to be? The Angels have so many opportunities. You only get the number 2 pick once in a great blue moon in Major League Baseball. With the Angels having the number 2 pick, they will have to pick from outside of the top 10 going into next season, which would be 2026. You got to make it count, and you have to make this pick stick. Perry Manassian cannot miss, and we will have an episode in 2 weeks dedicated to the entire Major League Baseball draft, which is on Sunday, July 13th at 5 p.m. from Atlanta, Georgia, where the site of the 2025 MLB All-Star Game will be. Speaking of MLB All-Star Game, don't forget to vote for our Angels. If it's Mike Trout, Zach Neto, Logan Olhoppe, Nolan Shonowell, and the whole crew of the Angels, vote, vote, vote each and every day. We want to see them going to Atlanta. We need some West Coast representation on the East Coast for the Midsummer Classic. But until then, listen to the show, watch the show, all of them here on Halos in the Infield. Get ready. Vote for your Angels All-Stars. Cheer on the Angels. And we will see you next week on another episode of the Angels Minor League Report. Until then, you know what I love to say. Be happy. Be healthy. Go Halos. And we'll see you next time on the Angels Minor League Report. Have a good one, everybody.
Catch it all on the Angels,